Okay, welcome back to part 2. Now, there's something I wanted to make mention before I open up the tool. I want to share something with you that I think is engineering genius. When you deploy this tool, notice that the blade, not the saw blade, but just the straight edge blade, notice that it sits flush with the outside of the tool. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're going to cut into something, it's much easier, as you can see, it's much easier to place the blade down and cut. Now, oftentimes with other tools, for instance, the Leatherman Supertool 300, the blade is actually this way. And just pretend like the blade is pointing downwards. Notice how much of an angle you have to have it at to cut flat. Not very good engineering on Leatherman's part. There's a couple other tools that do the same thing. For instance, the SOG powerlock does the exact same thing. But Leatherman decided, and they figured out, and a couple of other tool manufacturers figured out that we need to have the blade flush with the handle. You see that? So if I was carrying a regular knife, the blade would be flush with the handle. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be 90 degrees to the handle. It would be flush. So this is very, very wise on Leatherman's part. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. I thought that was design elegance. A couple things too that I want to talk about is the inside, the unfolded part of the pliers. Now, what Leatherman does, I thought this was actually pretty genius. What Leatherman does is it enables you to deploy these things one-handed, as you can see. Pretty easy from this point. So if you put, you flick of a wrist, these things will deploy. Now, what happens once you get about here, there seems to be a brake that's applied. In other words, you have to exert some force to lock it into position. So why is that relevant? Well, it's very relevant because when you're flicking a tool, what happens oftentimes, some of you may have experience with this, the tool comes around and hits you in the knuckle. So if I can just demonstrate here, what happens sometimes is the tool will swing around like so, and as you're carrying it, this is obviously fast motion, it comes smack and hits you right in the knuckle. Well, what Leatherman figured out was we can't do that to our poor customer. So we're going to make it to where it swings around to about here and then stops. And then what you have to do is you have to press with your two hands to complete the rest of the deployment of the tool, which I thought was absolutely genius on Leatherman's part. As you can see, I mean, these are just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pliers. The notch at the bottom of the pliers indicates you can cut hard wire with these things. As you can see, some hard wire cutters. At the very right down here, inside the tool, I apologize for the blur, but inside the tool, it enables you to crimp if you had to. And you'll notice that the very smooth surface of this Leatherman Surge, very smooth surface. One of my gripes, however, about this tool is the fact that when I'm holding this tool, it's actually a very large tool to hold in your hand. Oftentimes, the closer your fist is, the much better of a grip you're going to get. This tool is, from end to end, from bottom to bottom, is quite far apart. And so what happens oftentimes when you're gripping, if you don't have big hands, it's really going to mitigate your gripping power. Now, as you can see, there are 3 tools on this side and 2 tools on this side. So let's talk about the tools that are included. The first tool I want to talk about is the awl, A-W-L, awl. As you can see, this awl, if I show it up close here, is extremely sharp. And notice there's a groove here. And what that groove is designed to do is when you jam this awl into a piece of wood or a piece of plastic, perhaps a piece of leather, what it's designed to do is it's actually designed to bore. Okay, so it's designed to scrape, which is super important. I just want to demonstrate how this thing locks into position. I'm going to you can clearly see it lock. There you go. I mean, this thing, there's no question that this thing has locked into position. Let me fold it closed, and let me also share with you in the center of this tool. There's actually a little small tool here. There's that lock again. It's actually a small Phillips head, as you can clearly see. There it is, small Phillips head. And if I were to turn it on this side, if I can just get it in there. Okay. Well, does it want to go in? What's wrong? There we are. We've got it in there. And as you can see clearly, let's wait for this thing to focus. It takes just a moment for it to focus. Sorry about that, you guys. As you can clearly see, this is a flat head. The other side was a Phillips head. It took me a moment to get it back inside. I apologize to you guys. Now, what are these for? Well, these are for applications such as really small computer parts, or perhaps eyeglasses, or any small electronics. So you got your Phillips and you got your flathead. If I close this thing shut, there's one more tool in here which I'd like to deploy for you guys, and that is this enormous flathead screwdriver. Now, why do I like these screwdriver? I mean, look at the thickness of that thing. Very, very, very nice very nice screwdriver. I would say probably also equally as good for prying. Just as it is good for a screwdriver. And very, very thoughtful on Leatherman's part. I really appreciated that tool. On this side, you're looking at a combination of a bottle opener. Well, let me just deploy this. A bottle opener / can opener on that side. I mean, it's worth looking at. These tools are so darn amazing because they're so. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, so solid. Look how thick it is. So solidly built. And here you could probably strip some wire, which I thought was pretty neat. I'm going to close this tool, and I'm going to open up this bit exchanger. All right. Now, as you can see, they've got a a Phillips head, but they've designed it to where it can maintain its flatness and still have the 4 slots of a Phillip. Still going to 4 slots of a Phillip, as you can see. And I can change this tool very simply by doing one of those, and there I have a slotted or a flathead. This piece of cast metal that it sits in is extremely durable. I mean, very, very well built. What I would recommend is Leatherman's bit extension. And what the bit extender does is it actually it extends the tool about this long, which is important because especially if you need to get into cramped places. And what it also does is it allows for ordinary hex bits. So that's pretty cool. And it takes these bits and it also takes hex bits. And by the way, Leatherman sells a set of these bits, so you can get the set if you just want them to use it in here. You can do that, but I highly recommend you get that bit extension. It's not very costly at all. Stay tuned for a third part of this review, and we're going to share with you a couple of pluses and a couple of unfortunately minuses.